You sent the text an hour ago. The blue light of the screen paints lines on your face in the dark room. You see, she was online just 5 minutes ago. Now your mind is a storm. Should you send another message? A casual meme, maybe? Was the last text too eager? Too boring? You check your phone again. Still nothing. This feeling of powerlessness, this agonizing limbo of waiting for a response that will dictate your mood for the rest of the night, is a uniquely modern form of torture. You are chasing, and every unanswered text, every delayed reply, is a small cut that drains your confidence, your dignity, and your peace of mind. What if the most powerful move in this entire scenario is not to send another text, but to do nothing at all? What if the key to reigniting her interest, to shifting the entire dynamic, lies not in more communication, but in strategic, purposeful silence? Most men believe they must constantly apply pressure and attention to keep a woman's interest. They operate like jugglers, frantically trying to keep all the balls in the air. The truth is, your absence often speaks louder and more profoundly than your words ever could. Her brain, and indeed the human brain in general, is hardwired to react to that absence in a predictable, powerful, and escalating sequence. Today, we will dissect that sequence piece by piece. We are going to explore the 4 distinct psychological stages that occur in her mind when you pull back your attention. It is absolutely critical that you pay attention to stage 2, because this is where a powerful cognitive trigger called psychological reactance kicks in, and it changes everything. And stage 4 is where her deep-seated fear of losing you finally overrides her impulse to play it cool, compelling her to act. However, before we go any further, we must be absolutely clear on a critical point. This is not about playing manipulative games or punishing her with silence. That is the approach of a boy, driven by ego and a need for revenge. We are focused on the path of a mature, stoic man. Therefore, we will not use the word ignore to mean a petty, vindictive act of giving someone the cold shoulder. We will define it as redirecting your focus from an external, you cannot control, her response time, her feelings, her actions, to the internal that you can fully command, your purpose, your mission, your work, and your own inner peace. This is not about ignoring her, it's about paying attention to yourself. This distinction is the bedrock of the entire philosophy. This shift in perspective changes the very nature of your silence. It is no longer an empty void of waiting. It becomes a space filled with your own life. This is the foundation upon which the 4 stages of her psychological response are built. Let's begin with the first stage, which happens almost immediately and is far more subtle than most people realize. Stage 1, the pattern interrupt. This occurs within the first 1 to 12 hours. To understand this, you must first understand that her brain, like all human brains, is a pattern recognition machine. It builds cognitive schemas or mental models to make sense of the world. Through your interactions, her brain has built a model of you that includes a certain pattern of communication. Perhaps you text back within the hour. Perhaps you're the one who always initiates the good morning texts. You have, without realizing it, created an expectation. Your silence is a direct violation of this established pattern. It is a pattern interrupt. In these first few hours, her reaction is mild, almost imperceptible. Her conscious thought might simply be, "Oh, he must be busy," or "He's probably in a meeting." But on a subconscious level, her brain has registered an anomaly. The expected dopamine hit from your reply, the little jolt of validation that comes from a notification with your name on it, didn't arrive on schedule. This isn't panic. It's a small, quiet question mark that has been placed in her mind. She might check her phone once or twice, not out of overt anxiety, but out of a habituated reflex, perhaps wondering if her last message was delivered or if her connection is faulty. It is in this initial stage that most men fail. The slight discomfort of the broken pattern is enough to make them cave, sending a follow-up text that instantly restores the old, needy pattern and teaches her that a little bit of distance will always be met with more chasing from him. From a stoic perspective, Holding firm through this initial phase is your first demonstration of true independence. You are showing, not telling, that your life does not revolve around your phone or her validation. You have a purpose, a world that operates independently of her, and your phone is merely a window into it, not the world itself. This initial confusion is minor, but it sets the stage for a much more powerful psychological trigger. This brings us to stage 2, the reactance trigger. This typically kicks in between the 12 and 48-hour mark. Psychological reactance is one of the most powerful and reliable forces in human interaction. The principle is simple, and you see it everywhere. When a person feels that a freedom they once had is being threatened or taken away, they will react by desiring that freedom more and actively trying to reclaim it. Think of a wet paint do not touch sign. The sign itself creates the urge to touch. Your constant availability, your quick replies. That was a freedom she had. She had open access to your attention. By withdrawing that access, you are not pushing her away. You are triggering her subconscious desire to pull you back, to restore her freedom of access. At this point, the small question mark in her mind grows into a larger, more insistent puzzle. The story she tells herself begins to change. It shifts from "he's busy" to "why isn't he responding? Did I say something wrong in my last text?" She will very likely go back and reread your previous conversations, searching for clues, analyzing your words, her words, looking for a reason for this sudden shift. Her mind is now actively engaged, investing significant mental and emotional energy into solving the puzzle of your silence. Her emotional state has now officially shifted from passive to active. She is no longer just a recipient of your attention. She is now actively thinking about how to get it back. The Stoic parallel here is profound. You remain unattached to the outcome. While her mind is spinning tales and creating elaborate scenarios, your mind is calm, focused on the task at hand, on your workout, on your reading, on your work. This growing imbalance of emotional investment begins to shift the power dynamic back to a healthy equilibrium. You are no longer the chaser. You are the one being thought about. This is a critical turning point. This leads naturally into the third and perhaps most transformative stage of the entire process. Stage 3, the investment reevaluation. This typically happens around the 2 to 4 day mark. Here we encounter another fundamental principle of psychology. People value what they have to work for. This is often called the effort justification bias. Your constant availability, while well-intentioned, may have subconsciously lowered your perceived value. When something is always there, abundant and free, it's easy to take for granted. Your absence forces a market correction. It forces her to reevaluate her entire perception of you and your place in her life. At this stage, a critical shift occurs in her thinking. If she still hasn't heard from you, her internal narrative changes once again. The insecurity, the thought of, "did I do something wrong?" What is now joined by a new, more powerful, and more respectful thought. Maybe he has other options. Maybe he has a full, exciting life. Maybe he isn't as focused on me as I assumed. He's more important and busier than I realized. This is the birthplace of deep, genuine respect. She begins to see you not as a validation machine that dispenses attention on command, but as a sovereign individual with a life of his own, with purpose, with other people and projects demanding his time. Her intrigue grows exponentially. The mystery of what you are doing, of what is more important than replying to her, becomes a compelling puzzle she now deeply wants to solve. Respect is not given to those who demand it, but to those who demonstrate through their actions that they don't need it to feel whole. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca advised, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. By focusing on your own path, on your own mission, you become a destination of interest, rather than a wanderer trying to find a home in her attention. You are no longer just a character in her story. You are the protagonist of your own, and she is becoming increasingly interested in getting a part. And that brings us to the final decisive phase, where psychology compels action. Stage 4, the fear of loss. This powerful force typically manifests after 4 or more days of sustained silence. Here we tap into loss aversion, one of the most powerful biases hardwired into the human brain. The groundbreaking research by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky is clear. The pain of losing something we feel we possess is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something new. It's the difference between finding a $20 bill on the street and losing one from your wallet. The pain of the loss is always more acute. As long as you were constantly available, she possessed your attention. Now that possession is in serious doubt. This is the tipping point. Your silence is no longer a puzzle. It feels like a potential tangible loss. Her brain, which had taken your attention for granted, now perceives it as a scarce and valuable resource that might be gone for good. This triggers a genuine state of mild anxiety and a powerful impulse to reestablish the connection, to close the loop, to make sure the asset is not lost. This is often when she will reach out. It will not be a grand declaration of affection. It will almost certainly be a low-risk, casual text that gives her plausible deniability. Something like, "Hey, how have you been?" Or a comment on your social media story or sending you a meme. It is a test. It is a probe sent out into the quiet, an attempt to see if the line of communication is still open, if the asset is still attainable. You have allowed the unchangeable principles of human psychology to do the heavy lifting for you. You did not argue, beg, or chase. You simply created a vacuum, and her mind, governed by these deep-seated principles, sought to fill it. Knowing these stages is one thing. Executing the strategy with stoic calm is another. This requires a clear, practical action plan first, and most importantly, rule number 1, you must fill the void with purpose. The biggest mistake men make is to go silent, and then spend that empty time staring at their phone, waiting, obsessing, checking her social media. This is a recipe for failure and misery. The silence is not the weapon. Your redirected focus is. You must actively replace the time and mental energy you were spending on her with a deep, unapologetic investment in yourself. There are 3 pillars to this. The first is your mission, your work, your business, your creative project, the skills you are trying to learn. Outline the business plan you've been dreaming of. Write the first 500 words of that book. Master that difficult chord progression on the guitar. The second pillar is your body, the gym, a run, your nutrition, your sleep. Go for a run without your phone. Feel your lungs work. Focus on the sensation of your feet hitting the pavement. Be present in your physical self. And the third pillar is your tribe, your friends and your family. Call your mother. Organize a night out with your friends. Be a source of value and connection in other people's lives. When your mind is genuinely occupied with building your empire, your body, and your bonds, you simply don't have time to obsess over a reply. The silence becomes a natural byproduct of a life well lived. Next, you must practice the inner work. Rule number 2, master your own impulses. The urge to check your phone, to see if she's been online, to reread old messages. This urge will be strong. It's a chemical addiction to validation. This is your stoic training ground. When the impulse arises, do not fight it, but do not obey it. Simply acknowledge it. Say to yourself, there is the desire for validation. Then calmly return your focus to the task at hand. Every single time you do this, you are strengthening your own emotional discipline. You are training yourself to find your center of gravity within, not in a digital notification. You can practice the Stoic technique of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Imagine she never texts back. Imagine she's with someone else. Sit with that feeling for a moment. Realize that you will still be okay. Your world will not end. This practice robs the anxiety of its power over you. Finally, you must be prepared for her return. Rule number 3, when she reconnects, be the lighthouse. When she sends that text, your response is critical. Do not be cold, punitive, or angry. That reveals you were playing a petty game, and it invalidates her effort to reconnect. But you also must not be overly eager, which erases all the progress you've made. The goal is to be a calm, warm lighthouse. Stable, positive, and guiding, but unmoved by the crashing waves. A simple, effective script is this. Hey, great to hear from you. It's been a busy week focused on your project or mission. Hope you're well. This communicates everything. It's warm, not cold. It shows your life is full. It puts no pressure on her. After she responds to that, you can then take the lead. Let's connect properly next week. I'm free Thursday evening. You are warm, but you are not immediately available. You are in control of your time and your schedule. You are leading the interaction from a position of strength and calm, so the silence you create is not empty. It is filled with the sound of you building your life. It triggers a predictable psychological cascade, from confusion to reactance to a reevaluation of your worth, and finally, to a fear of losing you. It works not because it is a trick, but because it is a demonstration of a powerful truth. It reveals that you are a man of value, whose attention is a resource to be earned, not a commodity to be given away freely. You did not manipulate her. You revealed your own self-respect, and her brain simply responded to that powerful, attractive signal. But using silence to regain her attention is only half the battle. If you fall back into the same old patterns of behavior that led you here, you will end up right back where you started. The next step is to build an unshakable frame that commands respect naturally, so that these situations rarely, if ever, arise. That's why the next video you should watch is The 10 Traits of a High-Value Man. It breaks down the core mindsets and habits that keep you from ever needing to go silent in the first place. It is the preventative medicine. Click the video on your screen now to build the foundation of lasting, unshakable attraction.